Do you know the difference between owning a job and owning a business? Oh, that and more great financial and business tips from our next speaker.
Building spirituality, family, health, and business. This is The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.
Hey, Giant Builders. So my friend gave me some more samples. I would love to share a shampoo sample with you. I think it's a great shampoo. I'm enjoying it, and I think you will too. So I'll leave my email below. Send me your address and what type of hair you have. All right, let's see our speaker. All right, Giant Builders, how are you today? Don't forget, links below for social media. Follow us and comment. So today's guest is Alex Little. Alex, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. So please tell our listeners a little bit about you and what you do.
Yeah, so I am the owner of Little CFO Services. We are a fractional CFO accounting and tax firm. We basically work with small business owners that are making money but feel broke, better understand what they make, spend, and keep.
Well, I think you just described probably 99% of the businesses out there.
Yeah, and I mean that's really what it's all about is I've built a firm that's like a one-stop shop for finance and accounting for small business owners. And majority of the business owners that come to me are having that problem to where, they've reached the 1 million or 2 million annual revenue mark, but then they look at their bank account and it looks the same as it did last year. And they're like, where's all my money going? And that's the answer that we solve, either through just full service accounting services, letting them know exactly what they're spending and where, or the fractional CFO work to where we help you forecast, like, can you afford that new employee or, assets or equipment or whatnot. And then the whole, the fun area, the taxes, just, pay Uncle Sam a little bit less and put a little bit more in your pocket.
Yeah, I like paying Uncle Sam a lot less. So give me a little bit of an explanation as far as what's the difference between bookkeeper, CPA, and CFO.
Yeah, that's a great question. So bookkeeper, people use it interchangeably a lot with accountant. They are two different things. A bookkeeper really is just bookkeeping in general. It's just about categorizing transactions. Just when a transaction comes to the bank or credit card or whatnot, just labeling what category it should be in. That's bookkeeping. That's what bookkeeping is. Accounting is kind of, it takes that plus it does invoicing and billing and payroll and more sophisticated stuff like depreciation on your assets or accrued expenses. It's all the additional stuff. Bookkeeping is just the basic categorization. When people usually say like, what's the difference between like a CPA and an accountant? What they're really referring to is what's the difference between a tax professional and an accountant? Because most CPAs aren't tax CPAs. Tax is one of the 4 tests that you have to take to become a CPA, but it doesn't mean that you're going to become a CPA. And an enrolled agent, an EA, is actually like the certification for tax. It's way more in depth than the CPA is when it comes to tax work. So most CPAs don't touch public, taxes whatsoever. But if you're in that question though, accountant will do your books and will make sure that you understand exactly where your financial position is for your business. But an enrolled agent or a CPA that's doing tax just helps you file and prepare your taxes or do tax planning. Oftentimes CPAs don't, if they do tax or enrolled agent that does tax, they don't also do bookkeeping. Same thing with fractional CFOs. A lot of them don't want to touch accounting or bookkeeping or anything like that. So it's really different jobs and different roles.
Okay. And then the CFO?
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
Fractional CFO or just CFO in general is that high level finance leadership and strategy. So it's the big picture. And it's really like I guess should take a step back. the difference between finance and accounting, because it's a lot of people use that interchangeably as well. It's
Mhm.
two sides of the same coin. Accounting is all about what has already happened. That's where the CPA lives. That's where enrolled agent, accountant, bookkeeper lives. FP&A, which stands for financial planning and analysis, and CFO, that's finance. That's forward looking. That's forecasting, basically guessing what's going to happen in the future. And that's where your goals are. And it's basically the CFO's job to figure out what are your goals and how do we get there from like a finance standpoint and like the big picture of things.
Okay, so then how do you help or maybe, I don't know, teach business owners how to focus on their finances?
So what I try to tell business owners is they don't need to learn finance and accounting inside and out. Like that's not why you started your business. And most people don't start a business, bricklaying, being like, oh, I'm so excited about doing the accounting. That's really what I want to do. But you do need to know what good and bad bookkeeping or accounting looks like. You need to know what an income statement and a balance sheet are supposed to look like. Just so you can judge if the person that you hired is doing a good job or not. Um, because that's the reason why I started the accounting and tax side of my practice is because I actually started my firm only doing fractional CFO work. But like 3 months in, I found so many businesses that were like, oh, yes, my bookkeeper is amazing. But then I take a look at their books and it's just a dumpster fire. Like I can't give any type of advice because I have no idea how they're actually performing in their business. Um, so like what I've tried to build is having both sides of the fence is like you can have accounting without fractional CFO or CFO work, but you can't have fractional CFO work without good accounting. One has to come before the other.
Okay, so give me a little details, Kara. So as a CFO, like what are some of the things you can tell me about the future of my business?
Yeah. So one of the basic and like first things that I usually do with clients is
Mhm,
build a cash flow forecast because that's usually 90% of what businesses come to us when it comes to the fractional CFO side of the house
mhm.
is for cash flow problems. It's the whole we're making money but we feel broke type of deal. Like, my income statement or my P&L shows I'm making so much money, but I don't have that cash in my bank. Where is it going? And the cash flow statement is really what that will help you figure out. The top section basically shows this is what your bank balance at the beginning of the day, month, or week, or whatever time period we're looking over. And then below that will be the cash inflow. So all the money coming in the business. And that's really looking at, you send the invoice this day, but like when do you actually expect to get paid on that invoice? I think one of the biggest
Okay.
pitfalls for business owners is that they think that revenue equals cash or like an invoice equals cash. Lots of times you send that invoice, or even you forget to send the invoice, but if you do send the invoice, it's not the customer's top priority to pay you. Like that's just not how it works. So like sometimes they just honestly forget to pay your invoice. And just because you sent it, you're like, oh yeah, it's 5 grand in my pocket. And like, but then, months or weeks, years go by. Like I have a client that we looked at his balance sheet the first time when we first started sat together. He had invoices that were past due from like 3 years ago, and he never knew about them because he never looked. He just
Oh,
assumed he had paid. Um, but anyways, so the cash inflows, and then below that is just cash outflows. Like, and going through your bank statement for the past like 30 days is usually a really good insight into your business. No, so like the cash flow forecast accomplished a few things. One, it helps you like forecast like where you think cash will be at the end of periods going forward. But just the exercise of it makes you more aware of like the money coming in and going out of your business. A lot of times when I do that exercise, we'll find like one lady was like, I didn't know that I was spending money on 5 different Zoom subscriptions. I only have 3 employees. Like she was spending on 2 different subscriptions of employees that had left that she forgot to cancel. It's kind of like a
oh,
gym membership that you never know that you're paying for, but you never
yeah.
use. So like that's usually the first easiest like big win is just getting a clear picture of where is your cash going? Because
Mhm.
that's most people's problem and their biggest worry.
Okay, so you want to know my personal bad accounting process?
Sure.
So I cancel my credit card about every year and a half just so that people who I've subscribed to notify me so I can decide whether or not I use or need that subscription anymore.
Yeah, see, like you could just review like the expenses
Yeah.
every, like I say, I tell my clients like at least twice a year. Um, but then also like if it comes to like credit cards and stuff, virtual cards are widely available now to where you can create a virtual credit card for one vendor and set a budget for that amount for that specific vendor to where like if there's any like a hack or something like that, only that one card gets, exposed and you can delete it. Or what's more likely is that like if they raise their prices or they try and charge you an extra fee that you don't know about, like it'll bounce because you have a specific budget set for it. And then they'll alert you that, hey, they raised their price and you can make a decision then. But the whole like if they never raise their prices and it's the same, like that just comes back to you just need to review all the money that's going out of your account every month.
Is there an area that you think small businesses spend too much money on?
Mills and entertainment.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
Mhm.
um, that's probably the first one that just comes to mind, just because a lot of business owners they think, hey, I have a business now, like almost everything I do is tax deductible, and that's just not the case. Like unless you're taking a client out for lunch or an employee out for lunch, like if it's just you, like that's just you getting lunch, like that's not a tax deduction. Like I
Mhm.
had a client that tried to justify his two CrossFit gym memberships to me because the gym helped the owner stay healthy and the business needed the owner to survive. And I was like, okay, that's a lot of mental hoops to jump through. Like that has nothing to do with the actual function of the business. That's not
Well,
business.
you're being creative.
Yeah, I guess kudos for that. But like, anyways, the first like business line expense that I look at usually for small businesses is payment processing fees. It's usually the lowest hanging fruit to where I can make a small change with like whatever payment processor they're using or just how they're processing their payments and invoicing,
Mhm.
and both save them on average now, I think it's either 25 or $27,000 over the next year, um, in the first month, of just changing what provider they're using and increasing a lot of the cash flow due to like auto debits and like reducing down all that collection process of go chasing after their customers, to get paid. That's usually like my number one thing that I look at is like, where's your accounts receivable? Is that a large balance? And like, what's your actual like credit card or processing fees? Because
Mhm.
that's easiest to win usually for most small businesses, to be honest.
Yeah, okay. So I'm thinking that a lot of business builders eventually want to retire or leave their business. Is there a process of like preparing your business to be sold?
Yeah. Um, a lot of it's around having accurate financials. One thing that I find that a lot of businesses, small business owners make the mistake of is that this whole time they haven't been building a business to sell. They've been building a job to sell. Um, like when it comes to it, they'll be like, oh yeah, I'm trying to sell my business over the next 6 months, and they'll have to go get like an evaluation, I mean, see how much their business worth. And it'll be worth like two-thirds or half of what they think because the idea is like, okay, if you are no longer in the business, if you're retiring, well, this whole time you have been the entire marketing and the brand of the business, and you've been doing half the work. So, like, if you leave, half the work can't get done now, and someone has to hire to replace you. And we have to completely rebrand the business because your face, you've been the only one getting new clients. So, like, a lot of business owners are really just trying to sell a job that has customers tied with it already. And
Mhm.
it's not really a business that another person can come in, buy and hire your position or like, to replace you. It's not something that people think about really until they get into it. And then they see it from the purchasers, the purchaser side, the buyer side. And they're like, okay, well, that makes sense. Like if I'm gone, no more leads come in and half the work doesn't get done. And then they spend like the next 6 months to a year having to redesign all those processes to build an actual business that they can sell to someone else.
So is there a process to build all right, so if I'm already building a job instead of a business, are there steps to take to switch it to a business?
Yeah. So it's all about delegating and hiring. The first thing that most businesses will have the business broker tell them is you need to get your financials in order. It's usually like they have to go and get a bookkeeping cleanup for the past like 3 years because they need like 3 years of financials to really see, okay, how is your business doing? And then when it comes down to like the operations, okay, are you doing any of the client work? And like if not, if you are, I mean, like you need to build a process to where you can hire other people to do that work for you because you have to be replaced when you leave. And then the same thing with the marketing side of the house. Like, are you the brand? We need to like change the branding to where it's more about the business and then less about you? And then like going out and getting clients. So for like fractional CFO stuff, um, like the main marketing ways to find new clients, getting on podcasts, but like also getting on stage in front of people, and going to events and conferences. But that's all about you. Like you are selling yourself. It's not more about the firm.
Right.
So it's a really marketing shift. But there's a whole number of different things, but those are kind of the three key areas that I think that most businesses have to think about. Are we a business or am I trying to sell a job?
Yeah. Right. Any closing thoughts?
I would just say that there's more value that you can find from accurate accounting and like financials. Like it's not just, oh, I need this because it's a necessary evil because I need the accurate financials in order to, pay my taxes. Like,
Mhm.
and unless you're a nonprofit, and even with a nonprofit, it's important. Like you're in it to make money, and how do you know if you're making money or not if you don't have accurate financials? And those accurate financials can help you find trends and areas where you can make more money, improve your business, and it's really don't like when people ask other business owners what is your main concern right now, they'll usually say sales and marketing.
Mhm.
But almost everyone, at the end of the day, what keeps them up at night is their financials. Like, are they going to run out of money in 2 weeks to pay your payroll? Can they hire that new employee and to afford that? And a fractional CFO and the accurate accounting is how you figure out and have the confidence in making the right decision.
Great. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate your insight. That was good information.
You're welcome. Like I love talking business and like it's corny, but what gets me up every morning is helping people improve their businesses. It's just fun for me. So if anyone wants to connect, they can find me on LinkedIn. That's where I'm most active.
Okay.
My LinkedIn like URL thing is I am Alex Liddell because apparently there's another Alex Liddell out there.
Oh.
But yeah,
We'll put
or
the
Little
links,
CFO
we'll put the
Services.
links below so there won't be any confusion.
Perfect. That'd be amazing.
Okay. All right, great. Well, thank you, Alex. All right, Giant Builders, see you next Tuesday.
Thank you for listening. This has been The Giant Builders with Lois Wyant.